Hi, everyone. Today, me and Helevorn are going to be talking about Elisar, one of her characters from her upcoming Tapas novel, Outlaws. Before we begin, however, notice that I am wearing something from my Redbubble shop, which is a hoodie with my cover art of Sam New York. Helevorn has also received something from my Redbubble shop, which she will show you now.
Oh yes, the Redbubble items are amazing, the ones that we've seen so far. And here is a sketchbook for which I thank you so much. It is amazing, and it has blank pages, and the cover is of Fortunus Games' art of my characters Ingvar and Eyolf in a modern setting in the club, in a scene from a story that I've written. So they are amazing. And I also have a handbag with Sam in New York, the same picture as your hoodie. And yeah, their merchandise is amazing.
It is, and it's just so fun to see, actual artwork printed out, such high quality too. The acrylic blocks I have on my workstation are really fun as well. And, it will be interesting to see other things there as well, such as the photo prints that I've ordered that are coming. So link in description if you want to check out my Redbubble shop. Yes, and then we are also moving on to
Yeah, they're
talking
amazing.
about another outfit, and that's the one that Helevorn is wearing. Can you tell us a little bit more about this outfit?
Oh yes, this is a traditional Romanian outfit, which I'm wearing because we're going to be talking about my story, which is set in 18th century Romania, and our character is a peasant and a priest. So I thought this would be really nice to wear, and I'm also thanking my friend who made it by hand. And look how intricate the details are. So yes, thank you.
Definitely. We will include a link. Does she have a website or anything? If she does, we can include a link in
No,
the description.
yeah, she unfortunately doesn't.
Oh, I see. Okay. Anyway, it looks amazing.
Yeah, thank you. It does.
Mhm, definitely. So we are going to be talking about Elisar, and we can maybe start out by talking about who he is and what kind of role he will play in Outlaws.
Yes, Elisar is a priest from 18th century Romania, and well, he comes to join a group of outlaws who rebel against the corrupt authorities because this is a very chaotic time in the history of Romania. And Elisar, being of peasant stock, he notices the abuses of the ruling classes, and he speaks against them. And this makes him popular among the peasants, but not so much among the authorities. So when something happens and some girls from the village where he is a priest disappear, he calls on a band of outlaws who lives somewhere nearby, and he comes to spend a while with them. So in this way, Elisar will be one of the four protagonists of this novel. So we are going to see his perspective in quite a great detail.
hmm And Outlaws is going to eventually be released on Tapas, correct?
Yes, that's true. I don't really know why because it's a long piece of fiction. But if OC training goes this round as well as it did on the ALF round, then it will make a great difference.
hmm And OC training is a club that's on DA, on deviantArt, and basically it encourages people to enroll their OCs so they can get trained, so to speak. And basically, what you have to do as an OC creator is go through each task, for example, wardrobe, fear, anger, and explore all these different aspects of your character so you have a better understanding of your character.
It's very helpful because it allows you to brainstorm a lot and maybe to come up with aspects of the story that you hadn't thought about before, but that are quite essential to any character. And also even the wardrobe task and the profile task, they are important, especially when you are also an illustrator, because maybe when you are only a writer, then you don't need to imagine everything in such great detail. But when you also want to illustrate, yes. Yes, and I'll be talking about each task um, in in part in a few moments.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'd like to start by sharing with you the first task, which was guess who. And I think this is everyone's favorite task, because here every participant has to post a picture, a drawing of their character, including as many symbols as possible, so that the other participants can guess something about the character based on this task alone. So I'm going to share my screen and show you what I did for this task. And also, it says host disabled,
Oh,
the
okay.
screen share.
Sorry.
Could you, yeah.
More. Oh yeah, I have to go here, share screen, and
Yeah.
multiple participants can share simultaneously. It should be fine now.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay. Yes, so this is my enrollment. No, sorry, my Guess Who painting, and of course we can see here that he is an Orthodox priest, and I suggested it in the outfit that he has, especially with the golden details on his stole, and nobody really guessed this, and I didn't expect them to, but these are Romanian patterns on the curtains and on the tablecloth. And also, the pistol is supposed to give a clue to the fact that he's an outlaw, and also to the fact that it happens sometime in the 18th century, because it is a flintlock pistol. Then we have the Bible, of course, and here, it's not historically accurate, because actually Romania was using the Cyrillic alphabet in that time. But I thought that it would mislead people into thinking it is a Slavic country. So this is why I wrote it Biblia, which, well, could be Latin, and people interpreted it that side, but it is also Romanian. So yes, and then there is a lock of hair, which is supposed to represent his love interest. The fact that love plays a great part in his life, and that his love interest has dark, wavy hair. Okay, so this task was so fun, because people's guests were really amazing. I can share some of them with you. Um, okay, so this was an amazing guess by Ithiloth, and it really took me by surprise, because she says the following: the Bible is not in Latin, so I'm guessing along with the spouse, this rules out Catholic, because Elisar also has a wedding band on his finger, so it's clearly that he isn't Catholic, and it's a religion or a denomination that allows priests to marry. It's not in Cyrillic either, so I'm not sure if it's Orthodox, unless it's a country that uses Latin alphabet. And this was, of course, a fantastic guess. And the embroidering patterns point me to Eastern Europe. And this was the closest to guessing the actual setting. So, of course, you also guessed that he keeps a lock of hair of someone important to him. I'm presuming a dead spouse, since his wedding band is on his left hand. And so that's very true, because his spouse really died, and she also had dark and wavy hair. So that was a fantastic guess. And then we have other ones, and it said the gun is a peculiar thing. Most of this image seems peaceful, but the gun is a symbol of violence. And yes, they guess that he might be an exorcist, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's fantastic because I actually did a piece for Halloween where I dressed up all the outlaws as zombie hunters, and I can actually share it with you because I have it right here. And um, Elisar is the only one who isn't holding a gun, but he's holding a cross, which is very appropriate when we deal with, creatures of the night. So that that was actually a really fun guess. Um, okay, so another comment said that he doesn't seem particularly focused here, so I imagine he's one to get lost in his own thoughts, which is true because he's very introspective. Um, Okay. Dragon Doodle. His expression is one of a man who knows he's doing the right thing by God, even if it requires force. Which is also true because he's placed in a position to justify his actions and um, to to have his actions facing his beliefs. Um, And from Dark Revel, he might from the gun on the table. Oh, okay. He might be a nice person to talk to, but I wonder if he would tolerate using that gun to kill with it, which is also great because the gun was mostly a symbol for his outlaw, his association with the outlaws, but he wouldn't like to use it. Definitely, he would do anything not to use a gun. Yeah, and okay, this was the only person who actually guessed the time setting, and she had a wonderful guess, the 1800s, which is exactly, it's like 1 or 2 years earlier. Um, Right. And this is also fantastic. He says he may be at an impasse, having to choose between his life as a holy man and doing something else. Perhaps he's questioning his faith. He's taking off his stole, perhaps hanging it up or putting aside for good. Maybe it wasn't his choice, but he's being excommunicated from his church for something he did. And this is really fantastic because this was such a subtle detail. I was actually certain that no one would think about it. The pose that he is in, he's indeed taking off his stole. And this is what I wanted to suggest, that he's not a priest anymore for the most part of the story. So as you can see, these are some fantastic comments, and there are so many more, but there are so more and they are so awesome that it would probably take this whole session just to talk about them. So, but as you can see, they are awesome, and this is such a fun task.
I really love how so many people participated, and all of them are such wonderful answers.
Yeah, very insightful. I love them.
So yes, what inspired you to enter him into OC training in particular, out of all the different characters in Outlaws?
I think that it was the fact that he is the newest character because Outlaws was a story that I started 3 years ago, and it was meant to just be a short story. And it was about a Roma boy and his sister who meet a boyar a Romanian boyar who gave up his title and ran away from home and wants to start a band of outlaws to fight against the abuses of authorities and of the ruling classes. So this was it. I didn't intend to continue it at the time, and there was certainly no priest in it. But then I thought that this is such a rich topic. And as I mentioned before, in Romanian fiction, the outlaw stories play a great part because they are the subjects of a lot of literature, especially in older times, and in the past few decades, there were many films made about them during the communist era, especially because, of course, people of brave people of peasant stock fighting against the upper classes was really fitting the ideology of the time. So there are tons of films made about this. So I thought, okay, because this is such a rich topic, why would I not continue it? And priests are also characters that do appear in these older films, but well, I've never seen the actual perspective of a priest. They are mostly the kind of characters like, you know, Robin Hood's Friar Tuck. So that's the most insight that we can get. They are sort of comic relief characters, I think, in a way. I mean, they are either very serious and very conservative and they are sort of negative characters, or when they are part of the outlaws, they are just, you know, that jolly priest who loves drinking and you know, talking about very worldly things and making bawdy jokes and things like that. So Elisar is really not one of these things. And I thought, okay, this is something that we can show. Yes. And the Romani people also in these films are portrayed as comic relief characters. And this is another thing that I wanted to remedy. I said, okay, why would we not go back to this topic and just show things that have not been shown that have not been uh, shown before, and also sexuality and non-heterosexuality. And for an Orthodox priest to be put in this position, yeah, I'm not sure who has done it. I mean, I'm positive that in outlaw stories, nobody has.
Hmm. And you were actually inspired to, you know, discuss the theme of non-heterosexuality through an experience you had 8 years ago. Can you share with us more about this particular influence and how it shaped, you know, the character of Elisar as well as the story of Outlaws?
Oh, yeah, and I have to tell you two things about this. So, first, what inspired me in the beginning, and then a very interesting thing that I found in an older document. So, okay, I was 8 years ago. I was hiking in the mountains in the Carpathians with my family, and we wanted to visit this monastery, and we had to go up the mountain, and it was heat and very sunny, and we were really tired, and we just wanted to rest. And when we got there, there was a huge sign that said that women are not allowed to go further, and if they do go further, they are cursed by this. Well, the sign was placed there by a priest who was canonized after this. So there were a very detailed curse. What should happen to that woman? That she should uh, live in poverty and become a hunchback and have all these tragedies, every kind of tragedy come upon her. These were the words. So, of course, at the time, we were like, okay, you go ahead, to my father and my brother. And we just waited there. And we thought that we did all that road for nothing. And we were thinking that it's for people for women who are really fervent believers, it's really unfair. So I was thinking, what made that person, that priest, write this? And of course, I found out later that apparently this priest went over there to the monastery, and he found the monks drinking, eating, and, you know, reveling with women. And apparently he believed that it was the women's fault, so this is why he placed the curse on women. So this is how it started. But in my mind at the time, while waiting for my father and brother to return, I was thinking, but what if actually that priest was in love with another one, and that man was in love with a woman, and this is what made him jealous, and this is why he started hating women and prohibiting women to go further. And of course, it was more like a joke, and I wasn't serious about really writing this. But the idea of a gay Orthodox priest really remains somewhere in the back of my mind. And I thought, okay, this is the addition that I should make to the old Outlaw story. And then while doing research for this story, I came across this document that said that there was a case in 18th century Romania where a priest was excommunicated for letting himself sodomized by gypsies. This was actually the thing that was there. And I thought, oh God, this is like, it was written in history. I have to write this. I really have to turn it into a story. Okay, it's not, well, this is not how it goes down in my story, but it was just a really funny coincidence. I have no idea what exactly happened in that situation, but yeah, it was a funny coincidence.
Oh my gosh. So we already have a clue as to who Elisar's love interest is.
Yes, definitely. It is the young Romani man, Murgu.
Exactly. And in the original short story, he tried to have a relationship with someone, but that did not work. So now this time we finally see him with someone who actually likes him back.
Oh yes, Murgu is he's a very outspoken and emotional man, and he's very honest about his feelings and about his thoughts, and he doesn't really understand how sexuality works, I think. And he's very sociable, but he had to live alone in the woods for a while. And so when he finally meets a man who is really the folk hero type, because he's an outlaw, and he kind of has a crush on him. And yeah, this is what happens. And so he will have a crush on the priests as well. And we'll have to see how that goes.
Hmm. So will in this round of OC training, will you also be exploring his relationship with other characters, including but not limited to Margu, Amza, Narcisa, and some others?
Of course. Well, his relationship with Murgu is one of the central things in the story. So that will be explored in great detail because it will be a thing in both Elisar's perspective and in Murgu's perspective. So basically, it's half of this story because we have four perspectives in total. So we're going to see how their relationship evolves. Um, we're going to see how they come to have feelings for each other and how they come to manifest themselves. And of course, Elisar is the one who takes uh, a longer time to figure it out and to accept it and to give way to it. And but we are going to explore his relationship with Amza, the leader of the Outlaws, as well, because they have a history. They met many years ago when Elisar was a teenager. He's 25 now, so 10 years ago, when Amza was a leader of the authorities who are supposed to take taxes from the peasants. So some bad things happened, and Elisar and his family had to suffer from this. And this is in part why Elisar is so much against the abuses of the upper classes and of the way the peasants are downtrodden in this setting. And Amza sort of feels guilty because at the time he was a boyar's son and he was quite self-entitled, and he made a mistake. He pushed it too far and he didn't mean to. And Elisar was a victim of that. And now when Elisar is a priest, he Amsa treats him with a lot of respect and like he wants to make up for what happened. So this is the relationship between them.
Mm-hmm. Um, will you be exploring more of Alistar's character arc in OC training? Because he is one of the characters who goes through the most changes in the Outlaws.
Yes, of course. And Elisar's character arc is indeed very important because he changes from being confident and self-important in the beginning to being confused and desperate as a result of something that happens and a mistake that he makes. And after this period of confusion, he gradually becomes self reliant again. And in the end, we see him being more open to experience, more empathetic, and more self acceptance. So he has quite a big arc, and he undergoes these several stages.
Mm-hmm. What prompts these changes?
First of all, it was that incident that takes place, which leads him to flee and join the Outlaws for a short while. He isn't really a priest any longer, and he does something against the law. So he feels guilty for the mistake he made, and this sort of makes him get off his high horse and detach himself from dogmas, which he so greatly relied on until now, and actually look around him and inside him. So instead of looking up and looking into books, he starts looking more inside of himself. And another very important element in this change is Murgu, who makes him figure himself out more without the barrier of dogma, because this part of himself is sexuality. He was aware of it. He had been aware of it for, well, quite some time, but he always hoped that he would change, and he lied to himself that he had changed. So of course Murgu puts him face to face with this reality that, okay, if I cannot change this, I might as well accept it.
Mm-hmm. I see. And as we know from the Guess Who task, he had previously been married to a woman.
Yes, and that is another source of guilt for him because he's afraid that he hadn't loved her as he should. And when she died, he keeps thinking about this. And as a priest, he is quite, I think, superstitious, we can say, because in his darkest moments, he thinks that maybe the fact that she and their child died was his fault, was God's way to punish him. And this is one reason why falling in love with someone else, he sort of feels it like a betrayal of the memory of his wife.
Mm-hmm. I see.
So I'm going to show this, perhaps in the fear task
Mm-hmm.
of OC training.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that the way that Elisar sees romance and love is actually really tied to his fears and also his religious beliefs.
Oh yes, yes, very much, because he is. I think that he has the potential to be a romantic person and to manifest his emotions. I mean, he doesn't have a problem with that, not in the way that Ingvar does, and also not in the way that some of my Norse characters do, who want to project a very manly image, and this is why they don't. They aren't romantic, you know. I mean, Ingvar really doesn't have this. This is not his problem. He's a priest, so he doesn't really care about being manly and all that, you know, whatever manly means in that society. So yeah.
Yes. So I think Elisar, remember how in The Sims his personality archetype was lover? It kind of fits now.
Oh yes, I know. It really does fit. I mean, he's one of the very few male characters that I have who isn't afraid to say I love you.
That's true. I think, okay, Aiden, is he also afraid of saying I love you?
Oh no, Aiden is the other one.
And Aolf, I guess.
They're the ones who do. Yeah, well, not really. Aelf is more, he also projects an image because, yeah, he doesn't want to seem manly, but he doesn't want to seem vulnerable either because he's obsessed with not being uh, you know, uh, put down by people and not being taken seriously. So he also pretends that he doesn't love people. He says, "Oh, you know what I'm like. I just love having affairs with everyone. I will never settle down. I never love anyone. You know, he's just having fun and enjoying life." So yes, Eolf does put on a facade much more than Elisar and Aiden. And maybe it's a coincidence or maybe it's not. It is exactly my two priests who are like this.
You're right. Yeah. And they contrast each other with Aolf, who is also a religious professional, but he's not a priest and he's not Christian.
Oh yeah, and their approaches to religion are as different as they can be. I mean, even Elisar and Aiden's, but Elisar and Eolf are really the opposite because Eolf places such a great emphasis on sexuality, and he also has a very independent approach to faith in general. Also, because there really was no dogma and no written scriptures at the time that my Norse stories take place in the 10th century. So nothing was written. So basically, every religious professional could just come up with their own interpretations and tell people whatever they want. So Aelf really adapts everything related to his faith to his own personality, which is, as we know, it is very flamboyant um, and well, focused on sexuality. But for Elisar, it is really the other way around. Dogma plays a very important role, much more than his personal interpretations, because generally this is where he seeks all his answers. He doesn't think about, well, he does obviously relate to himself and to other people, but he thinks that every answer to every question is there in the book. I just have to find it. If I read it enough times, I will find all the answers. This is what he thinks, at least in the beginning.
I see. Yes. And I think one of the reasons why he is like this compared to, let's say, Aiden, even though Aiden is also a Christian priest, is because Elisar is not a nobleman or an academic. He was a peasant priest, right? And from what I know, I think peasant priests were mostly focused on memorizing the Bible rather than actually, engaging in, those kind of exercises that maybe noblemen would engage in, trying to argue from different perspectives.
Oh yes, definitely. And Aiden's education also focuses a lot on sciences, as they were called back in the Middle Ages, the seven liberal arts. So he has a lot of knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and rhetoric, and medicine as well, and the natural sciences, which were very much studied by priests and monks in medieval England. So this does not happen with country priests in 18th century Romania. Elisar probably just read the Bible and the writings of some church fathers strictly related to the Bible and how people should live their lives, but not, sciences and philosophy, and especially not classical philosophy or works of fiction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. How would you say Elisar's literacy compares to Aiden's? He would be able to read and write, right, as a priest, but he's not very adept at it, I think.
Yeah, not in the way that Aiden is. I mean, Aiden is able to actually write his own books, his own textbooks on sciences. Of course, he is very young, but if he had gone on with his education in the way that he started it, he would most definitely be able to do all those things. And for Elisar, I don't really know. I mean, Elisar is also quite young. He's 25. Yeah, he's able to teach people because at the time only priests could be teachers. But I he isn't what I would call well read, not at all.
Mm-hmm. But he would be well read compared to some of the other characters, like Murgu, for example, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, none of the peasants could read or write. So I think, and definitely not the Roma people who were slaves. So really, they were not, no, it wasn't necessary for them to know any of these things. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would say that religion does play a large role in how he sees his own relationship with Murgu as well, right? Since religion plays a huge role in Elisar's life, and he always thinks about how one should act according to, his religion. So how does he see his own love for Murgu? Does it change throughout the story?
Yeah, yes, it changes. It changes very much because at first he doesn't want to admit that he feels something in a romantic sense for Morgo, but then Morgo is Morgo is quite forward about it. I think, I mean, he learns that Morgu is gay because uh, Morgu comes to confess his sins, and this is this is the sin that he mentions. And so Elisar really becomes very aware of Morgu's, perspective on things, and he's very certain of how to interpret the way Morgu acts around him. And it becomes very clear because Morgu cannot hide his feelings, not his anger, not his positive feelings, nothing. So it's all there in his face and his behavior. So yes, and once it becomes clear, at first he thinks that he has the duty to not drive Morgo onto temptation, so to convince him to give up these thoughts. And he thinks that he is the one who has to help him do that. But as time passes and as things happen, he comes to reevaluate this and to reevaluate their relationship. And he comes to think about it not really in terms of is it a woman that I'm loving or is it a man, but rather what kind of love is it? Because also for a woman that there is a hierarchy of innocence and acceptability from a religious perspective, right? It can be a lustful kind of attachment, or it can just be that kind of love where you just want to be around that person and protect them. And this is how he learns to view it. He
Mm-hmm.
sort of sees him as he sort of sees it, the situation, as a test of his faith as well, and of his purity. And once he realizes what drives them, this is what brings about the change.
Mm-hmm. I see. What other aspects of Elisar's life and personality will you bring to the forefront in OC training?
I will be talking about his relationship with his wife and his past, and also that incident in his past where Amza played a part when Elisar was a teenager, and in this will probably happen in the fear or anger tasks. We'll have to see. And also, the anger task will show his outlook upon certain social and political situations in his setting. So the abuses of the upper classes and the sort of a national awakening of Romanians and Romanian peasants. And so there is a degree of, I think, patriotism, if we can call that, because Romania, or Wallachia, the part that the southern part of nowadays Romania, was under Ottoman influence. It was a vassal region to the Ottoman Empire, and they had to pay taxes. And so the Phanariads were the ones who were the ruling classes in Romania. So they were not really Romanian either.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because it was also a very cosmopolitan place compared to nowadays, when Romania is is not cosmopolitan at all. Maybe the big city is the capital, but the rest of it isn't. But at that time, the culture was so much influenced by Turkish and Greek cultures, and we will see that in the outfits, and in a lot of customs that people were having. So yes, this is part of the setting that I'm going to explore as well.
Mm-hmm. I think there are going to be some characters who are Ottoman, right?
Oh yes, yes, we'll have those as well, especially Narcissa's part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we'll get to that.
Mm-hmm. Very exciting.
I know. Exciting and also quite daunting, because I need to do a lot of research before actually getting to write those parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it will be very rewarding.
I think so. I think so, yes.
Mm-hmm. Finally, how do you think OC training will help you to flesh out Elisar more?
I still need to think more about his relationship with the other characters, and to figure out how exactly those things in his past happened, because as of now I haven't really written them down. They're mostly in my head or referred to in short. So it will get me to think more about this, and to figure out his opinions on certain aspects, and also his voice. I have written quite a bit of the story and of his part of the story, but there is also a lot of work to do. I need to place him in specific situation in order to figure him out, like show him holding speeches to the people, because I mentioned it a lot of times that he is quite a revolutionary priest, and that he speaks out against the corruption of the upper classes. But I have not, as of yet, written any fragments, any speeches that he holds. So this is, as an example, one of the things that I hope I will accomplish through the OC training.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. And I think the person you're going to be enrolling after Elisar is Amza, right?
Yes, the leader of the Outlaws, indeed. Yeah, he is. I think he is actually, in terms of personality, the least developed out of these four characters. So yeah, he really needs some training. And then I'll probably be enrolling Narcisa, whose part of the story needs a lot of research, like I said before. And so yes, I'll have to enroll her as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to have like basically a whole year of Outlaws in OC training, I think.
Oh yeah, a year and a half, because there are 2 rounds per year. So if I enroll 3 people, then it will be like until next spring.
Wow, wow, it's going to be awesome.
Yes. Hopefully I'll get the story finished by then.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll release the whole story on Tapas after Narcisa finishes her OC training or before?
Well, that all depends on how much I write, because I want to start publishing it once I have a draft of the whole story. Or I don't know. It depends on how organized I am while working, because if I write the chapters in the order, in a chronological order, in the order that they will appear in the book, then yes, I can start publishing it as soon as I have a decent number of chapters finished. So we'll have to see.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a great year. I can't wait to learn more about these characters.
Me too. It's really exciting, and it's really strange, I think, to be writing about places that you've actually seen. At least for me, as a writer of historical fiction and someone who has placed until now their stories in a completely different setting. Medieval Scandinavia and England. Yes, I have been to Norway and to England, but it's to those regions, sort of. But it's really different to actually write about the place where you live. And I specifically chose places that I've been to very often. So, and the village where Elisar is from is one of the villages where I used to be a teacher. So I do know where the forests and the rivers and everything is, and I think it will be really fun. I actually plan to go there one time in the summer and actually paint, and say, okay, let's imagine that Murgu and Elisar are sitting by this tree and let's go and paint them. That should be so fun.
Yeah, it would be. Or you could make like a video series saying, hey, this is where Murgu and Elisar would be. And then like, I don't know, just put a filter on it, making it look like an old film. But they didn't have film cameras back then, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but this is like a convention that they do in films anyway, isn't it?
Exactly. It could be really
Like,
good inspiration. Oh, sorry, because there was a
yes.
lag. Yeah, sorry, there was a lag.
Oh yeah, and another thing that they do in films, the characters speak in English, but they have a weird accent, like the accent of those the people from the countries they are supposed to be from, like the Vikings TV show where everybody's speaking English with a Scandinavian accent. Like that really helps.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so this is how my videos will be, right? With a sepia tone.
Yes, and then you have like subscribe to my YouTube at the bottom.
Yes. Yes, I will be doing this. I really will. Once I start publishing it on Tapas, I will post videos to people who are interested.
I can't wait to see that. That will be so immersive.
Yes, I know. Thank you for your interest.
Yes, so thank you so much for this awesome interview. I can't wait to learn more about Elisar, and we've already learned so much about him without delving into the spoilers.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me. This was really fun. And we'll have to see. I'll keep you updated on how the training works and how much I'm accomplishing it this round.
Well, thank you so much. Bye.
Goodbye.